important to note that there's a lot of background noise, traffic, the call to prayer, the just sounds in general that you don't want on a podcast, except, there you go, car horns. It is so perfect timing. It is so hot. The AC doesn't work. You turn it on, everything goes off. The fan, you have to turn it off because it'll be background noise. So you're left really with just open windows, which is not ideal. What's that?
And sweats.
And sweating, yes, a lot of sweating. Add to that, your day started, this is Sunday, right? So your Sunday started what time?
5 a.m.
5 a.m. Mine started, I think, at 7:30. Not the right time to wake up on a Sunday.
God.
So you've been awake. And how many hours did it take for us to come to the conclusion that we were doing everything wrong?
5 hours.
5
maybe,
hours.
Literally.
Because I'm not bright on a Sunday. I'm not bright any day.
Me neither.
Yeah, but Sundays are pretty bad. I didn't realize that we didn't need to download software that we already had. It just did, like, it was so stupid. And slow internet, credit cards that don't work because they're locked. And then I think it's an idea that we're just so excited about, and it started months ago, but it didn't really take hold until the last few days, that this is something you really want to do and something that I'm eager to share. So there we are on a Sunday, a weekend. We should be on the beach or in the mountains, or I don't know. We should be doing other things. We're recording an episode about a mini-series. And I'm really happy this is taking off. And it's going to be called The Written Word. Of course, it's not going to be my voice. It's going to be yours. And you are?
Tala Ramadan.
And Tala, you've been on the podcast before. A conversation about Clubhouse and security issues and censorship. You're well known for your output on Lebanese affairs. You were at Annahar English. You're at SMEX. Your work appears in the New Arab, in Arabiya English. But this is not just once a week. It could be twice a week, at times 3 times a week. You write regularly. And your output is really significant. And I'm always impressed with anyone that has that very, almost brutal routine that they make time to do things that they enjoy, even if that joy is born out of more work. So I'm really impressed by the level of output and the quality, and that you really want to be part of the podcast. So for me, it's flattering and also astonishing.
I'm super excited.
I am too. And I'm glad it's called The Written Word. That came naturally.
Because it's also an irony, because it's not written, we're talking.
Right. And that shows you it's a Sunday. That didn't even click in my mind until you mentioned it. I don't think it clicked in your mind until now.
It just did.
Yeah. But you want to talk about the written word, and not your written word, the written word in general. And I think from our private conversations, I sense that your passion comes from taking your time reading books regularly, reading essays, long-form articles that appear in the New Yorker, and they're not Lebanon-focused. They're all over the place. And if you don't mind, Tala, since the mini-series will be starting soon, and since you have an idea of what you want to talk about, if you can share just the theme and why you're choosing something that's not Lebanon-focused, that's sort of away from the usual terrain.
I usually don't like to talk about something that I've written because I, just share it all over social media and just spam people with that. But what I like to do is always talk about something that I've read, and I just really like to highlight the topics that some people, just took their time to do the research, talk to experts, or maybe put their own opinion in the piece and just talk about it. I always like to, go above and beyond, maybe just to read about all topics and just to see what's going on in the world. Of course, there are a lot of things happening in Lebanon, but really I just like to zone out sometimes and just tune into what's going on.
But your zoning out is reading. which I find fascinating, that you find you're able to calm your nerves to reading. So is it almost therapeutic for you to?
It is really, because it's such an escape to me, because you just go to somewhere else in your mind and try to live in the author's shoe, in a way or another, because he would be taking you on his own world, and that's a nice thing, because you tend to have his curiosity and just read and try to understand him and try to see what's going on in his own world or his country, which is really something that's different from what's going on here, because we're living in a special area.
Right.
So it's really just this curiosity that took me, and my love for talking. So basically it's really the episodes would be me translating this particular passion of reading and talking, and maybe just giving people really the essence, or highlighting certain authors, or talking about certain topics in a nice and entertaining way that's not complicated, that they don't have to go through the reading, the whole I'll be the patient person and read the pieces and just try to translate them out. So,
and it's true that you do love talking.
Oh yes,
I think your friends would tell you that all the time, and you. I mean, no one is shy to tell you that your output is significant, but it's not unpleasant. You talk, and yet it's endearing, and you want to hear more. And I'm glad that there's a way to do this, because this should not just be among friends or even colleagues. Your passion, I think, resonates with a bigger audience, and your curiosity, I think, allows for an expansive audience too. And if you can share just a bit about maybe the format you have in mind. Is this going to be mostly yourself, reflecting on the piece at hand? Do you envisage maybe having a guest, maybe perhaps the author, at times taking sort of a give and take on the piece?
I'd be taking several articles and that tackle and basically a lot of topics. So let's say I'm taking an article about artificial intelligence, for instance. What I would be doing is just taking the juicy part and what surprised me in this particular article, and just because there's always something that's different and something that stands out in a particular article. So I really always like to highlight this part and talk about it. When you explain about something, why you liked it, it comes off very naturally.
So it's really narrowing down on the substance that you think matters.
Exactly, especially that in the Lebanese media we don't have the time to actually highlight all of these topics. So maybe it's nice, to zone out and to see what's happening around the world, but from a Lebanese perspective.
It's interesting. And if I understood correctly, you may even have episodes in Arabic if the piece is written in Arabic.
Exactly, because it's always nice to have this mix, and a lot of Arab journalists or authors have a lot of interesting pieces, and it would be really a shame not to actually include them. So a bit of both worlds would do perfectly, and I think that would be fair, because a lot of articles or pieces or books are written in Arabic because they're delivered in a proper way. So I would like to highlight both.
And I imagine when I started my podcast, it was at least a year before I included video, with the rare exception of maybe 1 or 2 episodes that was video only, or video was required. It was an episode that had visuals embedded. But for the most part, I always imagined the commuter, somebody in their car stuck in traffic, but they're not stressed because they have something to listen. Somebody walking on the corniche, or even for that matter, exercising, jogging on a treadmill, that they can listen while doing something else. It was really with COVID and the pandemic, when people stopped moving, people were staying in, that I threw out the video component, and it made sense. And I will never turn back from that. But I always think of the audio listener. And when I look at the figures, it's almost 10 times the video figures. The audio figures are huge. There are thousands of people tuning in to each episode. Is that why you want to do audio only? that you want to cater it to somebody with other things going on? Is it the commuter you have in mind? Is it someone else? Is it the way you engage podcasts? Because you made it clear that you wanted it to be audio only. And it's not because you have 3 eyes or you have, an added tooth coming out of your nose or something that would scare people away. It's not that. So why? Why did you focus on audio?
All right. So basically, the way I do it is when I want to, just dig into a certain podcast. What I do is just listen and work. So I'd have the podcast playing in the background and still get myself, to be productive. So what I really like to do is, listen and work. And I feel like a lot of people nowadays, especially with the pandemic and the previous lockdowns, that we're just super used to working and sometimes to overworking. So it's really just a matter of, focusing on the laptop or just, you have your eyes involved somewhere. So for me to have something in the background and for me to, just share my ideas, I think I would need to be in the background because some people would, be busy doing something or commuting or just walking to, just go somewhere or to work. So, I'd be like talking about the things I want to share and people can still have the time to listen to me.
So it's really the way you engage podcasts.
Exactly.
It makes sense to me. And we're friends. We know each other. You've been on the podcast, but you're also a friend, and I'm really excited.
Me too.
And it's it's funny. It's unrelated to it. It's really taking this medium and playing with it in a way that's meaningful. And I think you're a natural fit. And I'm glad. I'm honored that you wanted to do this on this podcast.
Me too.
So it's a mini series. It's called The Written Word. And it'll be a weekly mini-series. Maybe at times we can play with that too. It's fresh. There's time to play. But I'm excited of getting this started. And the first episode will touch on AI, if I understood correctly. And I'm speaking on your behalf. I shouldn't do that. But you mentioned it before we started. So that's the first subject. Can you just tell us a bit about that piece? Maybe where it's published, the general theme, and really what to expect from the first episode.
Since we don't have electricity in Lebanon and since
we're talking in the dark right now.
Exactly. So because, the future world and the technology world seems like a foreign country to us, I really wanted to highlight AI, especially because I read an article on the New Yorker and it just, tackled AI in a way that's really different because we always think of AI as if it's something that's very robotic, which it is to a certain extent. But the way this article tackles AI is a more emotional, some kind of way. So the way that the author, just walked us through this particular idea is really, really interesting. And I really wanted to highlight it because it's something different from what's going on in Lebanon.
It's an older piece, or is it something that's...
It's really, it's an older piece. I think it's 1 year old.
1 year old. So I'm glad you're saying this, that you're not limiting yourself to recent events only. You're willing to go back.
Exactly.
Okay.
So it's not something that would tackle only what's happening now, because sometimes, you want to go back in time and tackle something or a certain perspective that, I found interesting or different from what people are mostly saying nowadays. So it's a bit something that goes back in time or, just handles something that's currently going on.
Excellent. And I know that you're excited about sharing books as well.
Oh, yes.
And that I think you're either reading or you finished Asfuriye by, is it Joël Abirashid?
Yes.
So hopefully we'll get to that book sooner than later. I'm excited to know.
I'm really excited to share this book, honestly.
And perhaps we'll get even Joël to be a guest on your mini-series. If not, it'll just be you talking about her book.
Yes.
And we'll share it online when the first episode's coming out. We'll schedule it in a way that makes sense. And I'm excited. Tala.
I'm really excited.
I'm glad Sunday paid off. We managed to be productive on a Sunday. We should take Monday off.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Tala.
Thank you.